everyone, welcome back to Arca's NFT Creator Series. Today we have Zach Bruch from RECUR joining us for the next episode. Really excited to have you on, Zach. Tell us a bit about yourself and what you guys do over at RECUR.
Hey, yeah, great to be here. I'm Zach Bruch. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of RECUR. I've been in the crypto space for about over 10 years now, but professionally about the past 5. Started at Kraken, which is a large crypto exchange. I was on the trading desk there, then went to DRW Cumberland, was on the trading desk there too, then went to another firm called JST Capital and started my own firm. And then NFTs sort of hit me as this thing that would ultimately serve as this really large gateway for a normal, maybe non-financial consumer to enter this greater crypto markets. And then about a year ago, I teamed up with my co-founder, Trevor George, who comes from a very deep licensing background. He was a pioneer in the digital licensing side. And we formed RECUR together to help build and bring the largest brands and IP into the ecosystem in a way that's really authentic to the crypto community, but also in a way that the brands are comfortable with as well. So we build white label NFT experiences for these brands. We're blockchain agnostic, meaning our assets are going to be able to go across multiple chains. And we're really excited to launch our first branded experiences in the first quarter of 2022.
Awesome. And, for those that don't know, RECUR just had a very successful drop of RECUR passes, if I'm saying that correctly. How did that go? How much did you guys raise? Are you guys excited? What's the step forward looking there?
Yeah, it was a great sale. We haven't been public with the final amount sold. We're going to announce that later today, so I'm not going to break it to you here. But lots of involvement from the community. We're super excited and super happy with the results, ultimately because it will seed a lot of the experiences that we're creating to come. And we really want to have a vibrant community and wanted a way to reward the earliest participants in our community by providing them more and more utility. And via these passes, they're going to have utility in that they'll get early beta access to our experiences. That's what we publicly announced thus far. And we have all sorts of interesting things that we're going to do over time. And we're working with these brands for, 10, 5, 20, forever, for so many years to come. We're a business that's publicly facing, meaning we're not anonymous. You know who we are. We've raised capital. We're going to continue to accrue as much utility as possible to these passes and to our community. So it's super exciting seeing all the initial support. And we're really excited to keep growing that community and then ultimately launch these branded experiences that will usher in millions of new fans into the NFT ecosystem and then ultimately into crypto. And that's sort of how we look at it, is it's going to be a step-by-step basis. And if you participated in the sale yourself, you would notice that you could have actually used Apple Pay or credit card as well as crypto to participate in our sale. And we're trying to be as frictionless as possible so anybody can participate. And it's something they're accustomed to. We support over 220 countries. We saw purchasers actually purchase from 121 different countries. So our community is robust, it's global, it's diverse, and it's been incredible to see.
That's amazing. And, a lot of times when we talk to people in the NFT space, they're either creators themselves or they're investors, they're allocators, but offering the services to these these IP heavy projects is obviously very important. Where do you see that this space has changed the landscape for creators and for those that want to own the work of those creators, whether it be these big companies or just an individual creator themselves?
Well, I think NFTs have changed the game dramatically. Crypto in general has changed the game dramatically, right? It brought out this concept of ownership, and people are now starting to think about that in different ways. And what was really easy for people to understand about NFTs was the fact that just this concept of proof of ownership. And even though that's the same thing that's true with Bitcoin, with NFTs, when it was tied to something that's not financial, more people were able to understand that. So I just want to start there. The overall idea of crypto is now being more widely accepted via NFTs. So NFTs are like this gateway into the rest of the crypto world. At RECUR, we actually worked on something called EIP 2981, which is the recurring royalty standard for NFTs on Ethereum. We co-wrote that. It's open source. It's now been adopted by the community. It's accepted by all the large platforms. It's really exciting. And what that does is it gives a lot of power back to the creators, back to musicians, back to artists, back to brands, back to all the initial participants in the NFT, so that no matter where it goes, even if it trades off our platform or some other person's platform or some other creator worked on it, in perpetuity, they'll get to participate in it. So it really evens the playing field and changes the game dramatically. So I think that's really exciting in that these artists, these creators will get to continuously participate in things going forward. And the other thing that crypto does in general, it makes the world more global. And you're now seeing, and I believe you'll see more and more participants because of the global nature of crypto. And it ultimately allows people to access these various markets. If you look at something like Axie, you see the effect it's had on the Philippines. It's changing lives. And that's really what crypto is all about, was democratizing access to various different types of things. And ultimately NFTs, again, are a tool to allow for that. And then lastly, as I think it relates to brands, I just look at NFTs as this next wave of community. And if you look historically back at the internet, community has been something that keeps pushing the next trend, the next iteration, the next big thing. In the late 90s, it was community participating on internet bulletin boards. And then from there was AOL chat rooms, and then things like Reddit, where you could actually index communities, and now things like Discord, where we're going on to a Discord that's about or rallying around a similar idea or concept. You can actually talk, get a voice conversation with people all around the world. Like I even said it, in our Discord, we have people from over 100 different countries participating, engaging, speaking, rallying, getting together. That takes community to the next level. So for these brands to be able to extend storytelling even deeper into their communities is incredibly powerful. And then it also turns the switch and allows the fan to participate in that storytelling in their own way too. So the openness of NFTs is something that's tremendous. And look, we have another guest. I love it.
No, look, I think all of this is instrumentally important, and we've seen the focus thus far in this space be in collectibles and art, and not so much in the social aspect to date. You have these fungible tokens like Rally and all these like platforms that you can create your own fungible asset, but we've yet to see a widespread, like, you almost call them like VIP passes to a sense, where you can gain unbridled access to this group or economy that was otherwise difficult to tap into. And my favorite explanation that I definitely beat to a pulp is like Post Malone. Like when Post Malone was, just getting started, he was just like a YouTube guy, and nobody really knew who he was, and he was messing around, having a good time, and maybe he was performing in, bars. And then as he moved forward, and now he's a world famous, musician, there was no way for him to go backwards and say anyone that was supporting me when I was just getting started, maybe I had a Patreon, maybe I had merchandise that you guys bought, or maybe it was just like coming into like a live, like a Twitch stream and just hanging out with me. Those people, if I gave you, you have POAPs now, you have these social experience tokens, come message me and I'll airdrop you a free, experience to a concert, or I'll give you free merchandise that's only available to my early fans. And you're basically able to monetize that like I told you so moment of like, oh, I was the first one to listen to Post Malone. I knew him before you guys did. I put you on. And everyone's like, no, you didn't. I watched it myself, and I showed you. And now you have these kind of digital markers of provenance, not only for like art and if it's created, but also experiences.
Well, it's interesting how you're thinking about it, right? So you're looking at it from the perspective of an investor, which I think is interesting too. But it's an investor thinking, what's my future utility so I can have the utility value in this thing? But the other framework to think about it is Post Malone's perspective. And I don't know his whole story, but Post Malone's perspective, or the artist or the creator, they get to participate in their successes the whole way, when they probably in the beginning didn't get to participate as much. And it brings up an interesting point of something like name, image, and likeness, NIL. It's something that's really popular right now as you think about collegiate sports just passed, where college athletes are now able to monetize on their likeness. And at RECUR, we're working on a property called nftu.com, and it's going to host the official collegiate experience for every college across America. And what's super interesting about that is we are working with all these college athletes via NIL and player rights so that these athletes can participate in these sales in perpetuity. So those college athletes that might never make it pro, they still might have amazing college moments that they'll be able to monetize. Or what if they get hurt? Or what if they, become a superstar athlete, and maybe that moment becomes more collectible. So it enhances the collecting experience, right, for the fan, but also it enhances the experience for the creator, the artist, the athlete on the other side, because they get to participate in something. So I think that's what's really cool about this. It's a two-way participation street. It's a way to really communicate with your fan base and to receive the communication back. And it's just changing the entire dynamics of storytelling, of collecting, of engaging, and of what community is. And there are certain things that don't necessarily need NFTs, and there's other things that I feel do. And in my perspective, I feel like so many digital assets, or when you're ever purchasing a digital asset, it's going to, of course, have to be an NFT, because that's true proof of ownership in this world that we live in. And we're going to look back at it and think, what the hell? We were buying digital assets at a time and they weren't NFTs. It wasn't provable that we actually owned it. We weren't able to take it with us wherever we want. That's going to seem like a foreign concept. In fact, we're probably not going to even refer to NFTs as NFTs, because it's going to become so ubiquitous. And you've been in the space a long time. I've been in the space a long time. The growth of NFTs has been so exciting, because you're seeing the largest corporates in the world. You're seeing the largest brands in the world. You're seeing so many new creators, and that's a sign of a new trend. New creators actually coming and innovating in this space, and it's happening so much faster than crypto adoption from 2015, 2016, 2017. It's actually happening so much faster, right? It took till last year. We always on the crypto trading desk world, we also used to say, like, when's the first institution coming, right? When are the institutions coming? It took a while until Michael Saylor showed up and was bidding Bitcoin, right? And now all of a sudden we're seeing Nike just bought Artifact yesterday. Adidas has a Bored Ape. We announced our partnership with Viacom CBS and Hello Kitty and every college in America. I mean, so many different brands are experimenting. Budweiser's beer.eth. I mean, so everyone is now playing and experimenting. The rate of adoption is so fast. The next step is how ubiquitous is our crypto wallets going to be, so that everyone can participate and have it. And it's accelerating the entire growth of all of crypto, which I think is so exciting, and leans back on the point that NFTs are this gateway for a normal type consumer to then ultimately access a greater crypto economy and crypto world. And to me, that's like an incredible thing, because when I got involved in the space, so many years ago, it was all about democratizing access and seeing how many people can ultimately access this digital world, this crypto economy. And I feel like I'm seeing, and I have a seat right at the table where we're going to usher in millions of new fans who are going to participate in crypto for the first time via our platform, because it's easy and seamless. But then they're going to take their assets off of our platform and go explore DeFi and go explore different metaverses and social applications on top of different blockchains, and then ultimately have more control for themselves. So to me, we're really at a tipping point.
Yeah, I think the ability for NFTs to basically, you're calling it a gateway. I like to use the word Trojan horse, but the ability for it to usher in a new user base is rather impressive. For those of us that have been in the space for a while, every bull cycle we get pinged by our friends, our family, asking, like, what is crypto? How do I get involved? What should I be buying? And this cycle has just been much, much different, where sorry, the visitor wants to come back. Where this cycle, the NFTs just have such a lower barrier to entry that people are just coming in, and they're telling me stuff that I haven't heard before, and that's not typical. At least in the bull cycles that I've participated in, this is much quicker, much more involved. And I have my housemate who owns an NFT who's building NFTs himself, and that's not something that he's ever been a part of. I've lived with him for over a year. He's never once asked me about crypto, and now we're
Wow.
talking daily about NFTs. Like, this is this is like a daily endeavor. So the messages are just pouring through, and I think it just shows that this is a sector that is rather explosive in terms of its growth. When I got into NFTs, there's maybe 5,000-10,000 people. And now I don't even, there's some famous people in the space that I've never heard of before, and I have to go look them up and see who they are. Like, there's the 0 to 1 step growth was so rapid that everyone's kind of playing catch up right now and trying to understand, how did it get there that fast? And very quickly we're moving over to, now that we're here, what's next? And like, how do we iterate on this process, and how do we further permeate it into the space? Because I agree with you, like, the whole world is moving digital. COVID only sped that up in terms of like collectibles and assets, but like, information moved digital, money moved digital. I get my news on Twitter more than I get it on an actual TV show now. Everything is moving towards this path, and I think eventually, very long tail, but eventually you're going to start to see like real estate go on chain. You're going to start to see like all of your assets start to move into a much more functioning wrapper. With like it just feels natural. And maybe, we're drinking our own Kool-Aid here, but it just really does feel that natural. However, on the other side, real quick, there's a lot of skeptics in this space, and a lot of it's tailored around either environmental problems or this or that. I have my own opinions on that, but I wanted to hear what your take for skeptics of this space would be.
Sure. So for an environmental standpoint, I think that if you do your research on the environmental impact, if you look at like a layer 2 Ethereum or something like that, one transaction is using less or emitting less carbon emissions than charging your iPhone, right? It's negligible, and it's something to be cautious of and aware of. But from an environmental standpoint, you can handle NFTs in a very environmentally friendly way. That's one. From a skeptic standpoint, I think it's very simple. And I said it earlier in this conversation, is that community and culture drive everything, period. And everything that we've done in human history, it's always been about community and culture. And NFTs are a cultural and community moment right now. And the same way community progressed historically throughout the internet, it's progressing right now. And one of the key points that I think that's happening is you are seeing NFT native people becoming celebrities, creators. It's showing that it's really a new industry. It's not just some other artists coming into the NFT space and doing something there and copycatting. There's actual innovation happening. Real capital is now starting to come into the ecosystem. So we're going to see a lot more innovation. Real IP. We're working with some of the largest brands in the world. A lot of it is not announced yet, but we're public about our partnership with Viacom CBS and all their treasure trove of IP. We're public with Hello Kitty, Sanrio. That is a massive property. Every college in America, and so many others that have not been announced. They're all coming in the next 6 months. So skeptics, maybe you can be skeptic on maybe some of these PFP projects. Can they really all exist? But you can't be skeptical about your identity in a digital world or digital goods, I don't think, or having utility across multiple digital realms. I mean, right now we're having a conversation, a Zoom interview that folks all over the world are going to watch. We're engaging, we're interacting. This in itself is almost like a metaverse. I can ride my Peloton and I'm working out with people from all over, and that's like a metaverse. As you mentioned, the world is becoming more and more digital. COVID definitely expedited a lot of it. But beyond doing that, it made a lot of people feel more comfortable doing a lot of these things and engaging with it. I go on family reunions on Zoom still to this day because it became something that we realized, wait, that's really easy. So what we're going to see more and more of is in real life blending with this digital world. I don't want to say metaverse because I don't think that type of world is going to exist for the next, call it 5-10 years, but it's going to start blending more digital, and we're going to incorporate things in the real world with digital world, and it'll be easy to translate back and forth via NFTs to show proof of ownership. Oh, if you participated and did these 10 things, maybe you have a free ticket here. Oh, if you showed up to 5 home games to this basketball game, maybe you get this NFT, and so on and so forth. And it makes all these experiences way more engaging and more exciting. So we have the potential to really enrich our lives by creating more meaningful experiences with people on a global basis. So to the skeptics, I'd say you should be skeptical of every new technology and challenge it. But I think what we're seeing is unprecedented growth, and there is a home for NFTs. I full-heartedly believe in it. I've jumped with 2 feet in it. I'm building a big business around it, and we see tons of believers in it. And I think it has the power to change the world, enhance community, and enhance experiences. And we're going to do everything we can to push it forward and help bootstrap this industry alongside so many other great companies build it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's a very good way to put it. I think people are skeptical of what they don't understand, and I think even most of us sitting here are comfortable enough to admit that we don't understand everything that's going on in this space. We're still it's iterating at a pace that is impossible to get a full bearing on day one. So we're all learning together. I mean, you see the infrastructure playing out at the same pace as the products, as the same pace as the external hires, as the same pace as like the industry itself in terms of capital. So it's all building out together, and I think it's keen to have an open mind as to at least the possibilities of this space. Real quick, thank you so much for jumping on. Where can people find out more about you and RECUR?
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at RECUR Forever, or go to our website, recurforever.com. You can see more about what we're up to, and definitely follow our Twitter or hop into our Discord, which is discord.gg/RECUR, and stay up to date with everything that we're doing, our new experiences, and so on. And we'd love for you guys to all be part of our community. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot a DM to us or me, and we're happy to get back to you on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zach. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Sasha.